Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to a Monday morning. And to those of you that are back in school, it's good to see you. And to those of you that are at home, it's good to communicate with you as well. We hope you're having a great Monday and looking forward to a brand new chapter in social studies. Miss Richards and I are so excited. We really think this will be a fun chapter for you to notice and see how humans are developing. Boys and girls, it is thousands of years. Don't get me wrong, it's not overnight. But still, in just thousands of years, humans have gone from wandering around in small groups, hunting and gathering, to now starting to have civilizations. And what the heck is a civilization? You're going to find out. So excited to show you those, excited to examine some civilizations, excited to do some projects this chapter. This is what the chapter looks like. It is in your Google Classroom, and I want to show you that to get started. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I forgot how to get to our chapters in social studies, no problem. I'm going to give you the example. You go to your Google Classroom. Remember, use classwork up here. Classwork is where you find all the information easily organized. So I'm going to click on classwork. My computer is very slow today, so thank you for being patient. Then you'll see all topics. And in all topics, in my classes and Miss Richards' classes, you'll see a Chapter 3 post. I haven't put these out there yet because it's too early, but you'll see that there's a Chapter 3 digital textbook and a Chapter 3 Section 1 reading guide. This is what you'll need for today's work. This is where you'll click to get those two pieces of information. I'm just going to show you now what the book will look like. I'm back to that. Remember, there's all of this information above that, the people who helped make this book and all of that. But I've scrolled down to the beginning of Chapter 3. Does geography determine destiny? So does the spot where people are living determine how well or poorly they do? It's a pretty big question, and we've kind of asked you a little bit of this before. We're trying to kind of get you thinking on this before. We've got some other questions here. Which is greater, the impact of the environment on people or people on the environment? When we asked you guys that before, a lot of you said people on the environment, but I think that you were thinking more of the responsibilities of maybe the global warming idea and plastics. So we're going to show you a little different idea and way of thinking about that in this chapter. And then number 2, how does where you live affect how you live? So how does where you live affect how you live? Right off the top of my head, I'm thinking if I live in Alaska, I don't wear shorts and t-shirts a lot. If I live in the Caribbean, I don't need a winter coat. And that's just a couple things that pop into my head like that. Maybe you were thinking the same thing. Number 3, how does what you eat affect how you live? We know from History of the World in 2 hours that when man started being able to cook meat, it changed how our body processed food and allowed our brains to develop more and our gut systems, our digestive tracts to be able to get more efficient as well. So does that have anything to do with it? I don't know. I'm just going back to some prior knowledge I have. And then number 4, what does it mean to be civilized? Well, I know, family secret here, when we sit around our family room, our kitchen table, and we're having dinner, and our children don't have napkins, we say, you're not civilized. Get yourself a napkin. You've got food all over your face. There's food all over the table. Get yourself a napkin and stop licking your fingers. You're not civilized. Well, is that really a good use of that word? Is that what we mean here? So just kind of getting ourselves thinking and pondering. This is what you'll be looking at today. So as you scroll down, this is the first part of Chapter 3, Section 1. And what I'd like you to think about is, some of you have moved recently. Some of you might know someone that's moved recently. Some of you might watch on TV those do-it-yourself shows, DIY, or those real estate shows, Love It or List It, all those kinds of shows. What was the one with the couple and they got divorced and they got back together or something? I can't think of it. Anyways, so lots of different shows on TV about real estate and fixing up houses and doing things differently. Have you ever noticed in those shows or with your family's experiences that 2 houses that look very similar, meaning maybe the same amount of bedrooms, the same amount of bathrooms, the same size, in one location is a lower price, but in a different location is a higher price. Well, that's no mistake, boys and girls. There's a saying, location, location, location. If I want to buy a house on Lake Michigan, I know that the same size house, the same amount of bathrooms, the same everything on Lake Michigan is going to be more expensive than a house that is away from Lake Michigan. That is how it works because the location is really good. How might we apply this idea to early civilizations? I don't know. Think about that for a second. So what I'd like you to do is, with your crew teacher's help and your pods that you've been assigned, I want you to discuss these two questions, a turn and talk with your people in your pod. So the first question says, did the geography of the areas that civilizations chose to live in make them either more or less successful? I would like you to explain that as well to your partner, okay? So thinking that through. Did the geography of the areas that civilizations chose to live in make them either more or less successful? The other question I want you to ponder with the person that you're working with is, did the environment of the area have a huge impact on the way those people lived? We talked a little bit already about how flooding in certain areas certainly helped. We've looked at some irrigation things. We've looked at the ability to have some temperature ranges for growing crops. So at the end of our last chapter, we kind of started to peek in on that. So using some prior knowledge, using just what you know from life, discuss these two questions with the person that you normally work with. Crew teachers, if you can pause now and let them talk and then maybe share out for a couple seconds, that would be great. I would appreciate that. Okay, so I hope you had a lively discussion about that. It's really quite interesting to think about, and Miss Taylor and I wish that we could engage with you on that, but I bet your crew teachers were just as happy to do it. So thanks for thinking about that. We're going to kind of come back to those questions throughout the chapters, so I'm not going to go ahead and ponder that right now with you. You've just done it and talked about it with your pod person and your teachers, so we're going to move on from now. But what I want you to think about is this. As you read on, try to think about these questions with the various civilizations you will study. We're going to go through several different civilizations, and we're going to see how they rose and how they fall and some of their successes. One thing you will notice is that huge civilizations nearly always started near water. Well, if you think about the things you need on a daily basis, water is one of the top ones. Sure, you might want some emotional love and a hug and those kinds of things, but you're not going to die in a couple of days without those. You will die in a couple of days without water, and you will die in a couple of weeks without food. So, given that information, thinking about all the good things that water does for you. It can irrigate your crops, it can provide you drinking water, it can be used for trade. What else? So, thinking along those lines, what I'd like you to do now, please, is to get with your partner again and read through the rest of chapter 3, section 1. So that is this next page and then this page. It's really short, but it has tons of information in it. They're going to start showing you that things aren't just civilizations. Groups of people just aren't civilizations. There's a criteria to being a civilization. And here are some of the things that they're going to show you. Cities, government and law, system of writing, specialization, social systems, complex technology, organized religion. Some of those I bet you can guess what they mean. Others may need a little more explanation. But they're going to show you that to be a civilization, a group of people has to have all of these things going on at the same time to be considered a civilization. What does it mean to be civilized? So you read through this with your partner. I know you could try and skim it, but I'm asking you to please read it. It is so much information in there, and I could read it to you, but I feel like you're in 7th grade. So on this particular section, I'm going to ask you to read it with your partner, however you choose to do it, a line each, a paragraph each. Maybe one of you prefers just to read, so one person reads the whole thing, and then go back to your Google Classroom, open up this assignment, Chapter 3, Section 1 Reading Guide, and answer these questions together with your partner. Now, you both have to turn in an assignment, so please both turn in an assignment, but you can do it together. So you'll complete this, you'll put your answers in red or some other font color so your answers stick out to me and I can easily see where your answers are, and then submit. This right here is using the characteristics of a civilization based in the state of Michigan. This is creative thinking. This is you working with your partner to think of some ideas of how the state of Michigan represents a civilization, because we are a civilization. So think about that, answer that, then you'll see some cool vocabulary words with some definitions. You might have been a little uncertain on some of those words when you were reading, so here's some vocabulary support for you. And then you can spend the rest of the hour doing Quizlet together or by yourself. So that is your Monday. This is due actually Wednesday, just in case for some reason you really got into a heated debate today and you didn't have time to answer all the questions and you were reading and going back and looking at stuff. Miss Richards and I thought we'd give you today and then through Wednesday night. So if Wednesday you need to do a little catch up, you can do that. This must be turned in by a Wednesday. It's also a test study guide. So this is not just for fun, which of course it will be, but it's also your test study guide. So you're going to want to make sure you get this turned in on time and put into Google Classroom. Okay, boys and girls, thank you so much. I hope you had an inspiring lesson today, because really civilizations are pretty cool and pretty fun, and we're going to do our best in the circumstance to give you guys some projects, even though we're not going to see you every single day in person. Okay, signing off. Have a great afternoon.